Everybody, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed me talking to Dean Jernigan, who is my close personal friend, and I miss him. But I got another one for you, and we're going to have an excellent time here. But I do want to talk about my sponsor just real quick. It's HelloFresh. They are America's number one meal kit. And if you go to HelloFresh.com/BTB16 and put the code BTB16 into the order form, you're going to get up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. I don't know what the free gifts are. They didn't give me a free gift. So whatever you get is going to be really cool because I didn't get it. But yeah, please go to HelloFresh.com/BTB16 and put the code BTB16 into the order form as you check out and you get free stuff. What more can you want? I will say that it's just Lisa and I at home, and we were struggling with buying groceries because all the portions are too big and groceries are getting really expensive. So we flipped over to this, and it's making meals easier. There's no waste, and it's got the plant-based stuff that I like, and it's got traditional meals. It's got burgers and stuff like that. So if you look at it, they've got like 50 different meals you can choose from every week. So check it out. It's HelloFresh.com/BTB16 and the code BTB16 when you check out. That's all I got to say about that. Now let's bring up my guest that I'm really excited about. One of the cool things about being a podcaster, because I am a podcaster, is that I get to hear comedy albums early and I get to read books early. So I got to listen to Alex's comedy album today early. And let me tell you, it's funny. So let's bring him up right now. It's Alex Hooper. Alex, how are you?
Yay! I'm great, Scott. How are you?
Man, I tell you, it's great to meet you. I've been a fan, and as I told you before we got started, I had no idea who you were because I don't watch that much TV. And my son said, "Hey, you need to watch this dude on AGT because he just totally roasted everybody." And what I'm hoping at the end of this is you'll get to know me enough that maybe you could do a little roast on me, just so I can have something to show my son that I can be roasted as well, even though I'm near perfect.
Fair enough. I mean, you know what? We all have something in us that I can get you for.
Yeah.
So don't worry. I won't do it immediately, even though my wheels are already turning.
Yeah, I
So
bet. One of the things I wanted to ask is how long had you been performing before you did the AGT gig?
I was on 2 seasons of it. In 2018, I had been performing. I started comedy in 2009, so I'd
Okay.
been doing it about 9 years when I did the first one, and then the second one was 2020. So I'd been doing it like 11 years.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you were pretty seasoned by the time you got up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm glad it didn't happen earlier because the onslaught from that audience and the judges, I don't think I would have handled it nearly as well had I not had so much stage time under my belt
Yeah.
and so many horrific situations where comedy should never have been happening
Yeah.
anyway, you know? So it's when I got there, it was like, it was still a terrifying experience, but I was like, oh, I'm okay. I can survive this. I'm okay.
Uh-huh. Now, what were your expectations? Because you went in there, basically knowing that you were gonna turn the audience and the judges against you. So what were your expectations coming out of that?
You know, I went in there hoping that they would get it, that they would
Uh-huh.
understand. Like, if I'm like, okay, I'll go after Howie Mandel first. He's a comedian. He used to do really weird stuff in his comedy,
Yeah.
the rubber glove on the head and all that
Right.
other crazy. I was like, he'll get it. And once he gets it, the audience will get it, and all the other judges will be forced to kind of jump on board and be like, oh, okay, this is what he's doing.
Mm.
Um, that's what I told myself would happen because I try to remain positive.
Mhm.
I was ready for it to go wrong. I did not expect it to be as unforgiving as it was. To say, like, the thing is, when you're in front of 3,000 people that don't like you and they're yelling at you to get off the stage and you're doing your
Yeah.
best to perform, because I had to just keep going. I
Uh-huh.
just told myself, don't break character. Just do whatever you need to do to finish your performance and get out of here.
Yeah.
And I think, but also, like, I'm glad that it went the way it did, because if they had liked it initially, it wouldn't have had the pop that
Oh,
it
yeah.
does. It would
Yeah.
not have gone as viral as it did. Like, because because the audience showed so much like vigor towards me, it
Right.
really made it be like, okay, that's why that clip did so well.
Yeah. I watched it through a couple times today, and good on you for staying in character because I know that that had to have been rough.
Oh, I was dying inside.
Yeah.
I was in full panic mode. I couldn't even hear myself think, because like this is like crazy, Scott, but the like AGT in the edit, they toned the audience down. It was
Oh,
even more
really?
raucous and crazy than it seems like it is. And those buzzers are so loud.
Yeah.
Everything about that was just a nightmare for me. And looking back, obviously it made me so much stronger, more resilient, made me realize I was like, okay, well, it can't get any worse than that.
Yeah.
Right? So hopefully that's like my turning moment. A lot of people say that's my Joker moment of
Yeah.
like, oh, you don't like me? Well, I'll force you to like me.
Well, everything worked, and then I got to listen to the new album, and it's what is it? Is it Calm Down Peasants? Is that it?
Calm down, peasants.
Yeah,
Yep.
Calm Down Peasants. And one of the things we talk about comedians being unique, but you are truly unique, especially in your meter, the way you talk, because there are conversational comics out there, but you are like really conversational to the point where I felt like you were just sitting at the bar next to me talking to me.
Oh
And
wow! I mean, that's a huge compliment. Only because I always feel like I'm performing so much because I play with my voice and my
uh-huh,
physicality, and I watch comics that do, I call it like killing in first gear, like that Nate Bargatze, Tom Segura, the people
yeah.
that kind of just stay, just right here, and we're just having a conversation. So if that comes across in the album that I'm doing that, that is a that's a huge compliment, really.
Yeah, it was really it was unique, I guess, in the fact that I felt like you weren't expecting laughter. You and I don't want you to take that the wrong way, because when I go up, when everybody goes up, we're kind of expecting laughter. I mean, that's the goal of us getting on stage. But the way you portrayed yourself was, I mean, you've got this character with uber self-confidence, and the um I guess the almost I know a lot of stuff type personality and stuff like that, but it seems like you didn't care if they laughed or not. You were gonna go along for the ride, and you were gonna tell your story no matter what. And I really enjoyed that, and of course they laughed. It wasn't like they didn't laugh. There was great laughter, and your jokes really have kind of a first laugh and a second laugh type aspect to them, because there's the first laugh, and then uh, when we're watching you live on, because I've only watched you on video, but there's the expressions and all that brings about the second laugh, and also your jokes are multi-layered, so there's so much going on there that I like how you allow it just to happen rather than try to force it.
I appreciate that. I was at the end, I recorded this at the end of an 11-day tour where I was doing like the hour every single night to try to
Mhm.
get it, like just move around pieces. What do I need to cut? What can I fit in there? And by the time I got to Pittsburgh where I recorded it, I was pretty exhausted. I was also inspired, but like I was just also like, whatever happens here, I feel ready to do this. And I did 2 shows that night, and most of the audio, I think all of the audio is from the second show. The
Uh-huh.
first show was okay, but there was a lot of people that didn't know who I was, and the audience was pretty small. It was only about 40 people. Like, we were in a small black box theater, which is what I wanted. But
Uh-huh.
if you don't know who I am, and I'm, like you said, I am unique. I have
Mhm.
perspective. I talk about a lot of odd things, and I very much am myself. So if you're not expecting that, then it's going to take you a little bit longer to get on board. And
Right.
honestly, that's one of those scary things of, like, when you start doing a set for an album recording, you're like, oh, these people aren't that into this right now. Am I going to be okay for the next 58 minutes? Like, if they're not laughing now, how do I turn them?
Yeah.
But one beautiful thing about audio as opposed to a video special is that when people listen to an album, they really are listening to you and not waiting for the audience to tell them, oh, we laugh now.
Yeah.
The audience is laughing, so we do. And so I really like that you can hear, because the audience is only 40 odd people, you can hear individuals at different times
Yeah.
laughing at different things. And I think
Yeah.
that's really, as opposed to just hearing one continuous roar throughout. If I had had hundreds of people there, I like how small it feels. It really
Right.
does feel intimate.
Yeah, yeah. I did get that feel from it, just listening to the audio, and I agree with you. It's hard to it's sometimes it's hard to watch like a Netflix special or something like that as a comedian, because you first of all you're breaking everything down, and you're trying to get in like Nate Bargatze's head or whatever, and see what's going on there instead of actually enjoying it. And with a album like this, I can be driving and it can be in the background, and then I absorb it a little bit better, just because I'm not trying to draw out where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I can just be a little bit more present. So yeah, there is a place for albums, but I mean, you're a guy I would like to see live. Because the visuals are definitely a good thing too.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have so much fun on stage. Obviously, I dress like I have my own style. I wear a lot of kimonos and
Mm,
furs and things like that. I'm very festival inspired. But for me, like, a lot of people ask me, why didn't you film this? Why didn't you do a special for this? And my thing, I have ideas for specials. I put out one that was like a compilation of all these sets I did in London. It's more like a
mhm,
travel log documentary, and that's on YouTube. I have ideas for specials that are actually like specials. And
mhm.
I feel like right now, for me, I turn on like something like Netflix, and then everything just kind of looks very similar. And it's, for me, I don't really enjoy, because I watch so much live comedy, I don't enjoy watching specials. But if you tell me, hey, like you said, here's an album,
Hard.
you got an hour-long drive, put it on in the car, and that's when I feel
Yeah,
like I'm in the room. I'm here with these. I'm really
yeah,
listening now to this full experience, and not getting bored after 10 minutes like I do watching a special. If you're a real
right.
comedy fan and you go to shows, specials for the most part, they're boring, because
Yeah,
they're such a finished product, and anyone
yeah,
who's a real comedy fan likes to see things happening live in front of them, and likes to see the
right.
stew being mixed up.
Mhm. Yeah,
So that's why I wanted to do another audio album, before I do an actual special,
uh-huh.
because I just like how I like the experience more of listening to it. It's how I grew up.
Yeah, yeah, that's that same. Yeah, that's I have the same situation. Now, let's back up a little bit. What brought you to comedy?
Oh, so I went to school to be an actor. I was doing acting in high school. I went to a magnet school in Baltimore. Then I went to Pittsburgh, to go to a school called Point Park University for theater, which is why I recorded this album in Pittsburgh. I actually hadn't been back since I graduated, and I wanted to go back to a city that, I kind of I wasn't sure where I was yet, but it did allow me to grow a lot as a
Mhm.
human. And I moved to Los Angeles. I was already in the Screen Actors Guild, because I did a couple films in college, and I just thought, let me go for this. 6 months after living in LA, I was bored, and a friend of mine was like, "Dude, you really got to do stand up," and kind of just showed me the way, like put me on a bringer show,
Uh-huh.
which I didn't know any better at the time, and I just did it. But it was one of those things where like I did that 6 minutes, and I knew instantly when I walked off stage that I was like,
Mhm.
this is everything I've been looking for. I have such manic energy, and I'm so like discombobulated all the time, and I don't know where to focus, that this was finally a way to funnel all of that like power inside of me into a
Uh-huh.
source that would actually service me in some way. So when I found comedy, it was like, game on, run as fast as you can. What can we accomplish in my life? It's all
Uh-huh.
coming back to this.
That's great. How did your act evolve over the years? So let's think about 2009 to the AGT thing. How did it evolve between those times?
You know, when I first started, I definitely it was a lot more observational comedy. It was a lot more just it was less personal and more just like things that I've noticed, or whatever it may be. Kind of how everyone starts, like that almost like Seinfeldian approach to it of just like, isn't this weird?
Yeah.
I was also very experimental because I had no idea what kind of comedian I wanted to be. So I would try like one set where all I did was one liners, like very slow, like Stephen Wright style. And then I would
Mhm.
try another set that I was just full character, where I would write out these insane monologues and perform them almost more like a one-man show. And I
Uh-huh.
just kept playing around with who I wanted to be on stage and the message I wanted to present. And then
Uh-huh.
it was around 8 years in that I'd been doing roast battle for a while at the Comedy Store, and I was doing really well there. So I got to Comedy Central because of it. And that's when I realized, like, I just want to I just want to go balls to the wall and just be this person that I'm kind of afraid to be, that I'm holding back. But
Uh-huh.
I call it, whenever I'm at a music festival and I'm truly being myself, I call it like uncaged Alex, free range. Like I am
Yeah.
fully at my best. I am my most powerful, I'm most energetic, my most fun, my most silly. I'm creative. And I was like, why am I so afraid to bring that element to stand up? Like I always thought those were
Uh-huh.
separate worlds, but I realized the best thing I can do to be myself is combine them.
Uh-huh.
And when I really started thinking like, wow, I love this positivity stuff. I like being inspirational, but I like doing it through dark humor.
Yeah.
That's when it became like, oh, that's that's where you differentiate yourself,
Yeah.
is you are this child of love and happiness, but you experience it and you present it in a very twisted way. I
Yeah.
mean, I think a perfect example of that, and you're the first person I've actually talked to about this that's listened to the album, is like there's a lot of jokes on there that represent that, but I think really the when I'm teaching the kid how to slackline, it is
Yeah.
a perfect example of a I am showing this kid all the love in the world. I'm telling him
Uh-huh.
not to love himself, and at the same time I'm telling him, but wait, because in a few years you're going to try to kill yourself because your
Yeah.
life is going to be so terrible. And
Yeah.
I literally, that joke, I am telling a 7-year-old child that he's going to try and take his own life.
Yep.
And but again, but it comes back to, but not today, buddy.
Yep.
Today we're gonna get back on the slack line,
Yep.
and it's this perfect dichotomy of who I am, where I'm being this, it's just ever loving soul, but
Uh-huh.
also a realist that's like,
Yeah.
but just so you know, the world is going to kick your fucking ass every
Yeah.
single day.
Yeah.
So get ready.
It's funny. I see you as that wide-eyed, innocent kid that has gone through the shit of life and has retained some of that wide-eyed, innocent, happy kid stuff, and that is what's keeping you from, like, taking a bunch of pills.
I mean, nothing wrong with taking a bunch of pills. I mean,
Yeah.
depending what kind of pills we're talking about here.
Yeah.
But no, I think as a child, I was I was very bitter, very angry. I thought the whole world was created just to be against me.
Uh-huh.
I have really terrible eczema, like one of the worst cases you can have. So I was in and out of the hospital a lot. I was in constant pain and discomfort. So I didn't really have that childlike wonder until
Ah.
my until my mid-20s, when I started to kind of get healthier and my skin started to get better. And so I think I'm still kind of living in that whole like, well, I never really was happy in my childhood. So now I've lived the depressing and angry side of things. I've been over there long enough. Let me see what the other side is like, where the grass is a little greener. Let me frolic over here for a while.
Yeah. That's a great story because I would have never thought that. And I mean, you went through the bad stuff early and then came out of it a new guy.
Yeah, very much so. And anyone, I mean, that's why, I mean, it's very, if you know my story at all, like it's so fun for my family to watch like what has happened to me because I was
Mhm.
such a lost cause. I really looked at myself as a broken human being, just someone that
Mhm.
was never even given a fighting chance. So why should I do anything for myself? And like thanks to comedy and so many, I mean, there's so many other factors that made me like really start appreciating my life. But it really changed things for me. And now I am just trying to get people to look at the brighter side, to accept who they are, to not be ashamed of what you look like or whatever's wrong with you, embracing your flaws. And I
Mhm.
really try to put that in there. And the more I did this album, like the more I toured it and more shows I did, I realized like that is the overall theme is all of these things that I'm talking about are all ways that I grew
Mhm.
personally, but how can I relate them so it's not just like a me, so the audience can also step into
Right.
their own shoes and see how they relate to this too. Because that's
Yeah.
really that's what we're going for. Even no matter how personal our comedy is, we want it to be relatable.
Yes.
And you have to do that in a way where, okay, maybe not everyone knows what a sound bath is,
Yeah.
but I need to make you feel like you know what it is after I start talking about it.
I
You
didn't
know,
know
same
what it was until the joke. That was good.
most people don't. Most people don't know
Yeah.
what slacklining is. I mean, I'm in
Yeah.
California, so it's a basic thing. So like you see it places, but most people don't know what it is. So you need to offer that quick explanation. Here's what it did for me. Here's why I do it. And now
Mhm.
here's the joke. So that
Yeah.
you're not just like, why is he talking about balancing on a tightrope?
Yeah. Yeah. So this album especially, did as many times as you had to do it to get ready, did you have people come to you after your show saying, "I felt like you were talking to me"? Like you brought out their own stories?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have this thing where people unload trauma onto me
Uh-huh.
immediately after meeting me, and I get this all the time where people will just walk up and tell me they're like, "Oh my gosh, dude, I really loved your set. It's really a hard time for me. My dad has bowel cancer, and I'm at home taking care of him, and this is my only night out." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what is your name? I don't I don't need to know that. Like,
Yeah.
like you're changing your dad's diapers. Great. Can I know who you are, what you do, some
Yeah.
basic information before we get here?" So this happens to me a lot, and I think I've just accepted that I have a healing energy to people
Uh-huh.
that is something about me just makes them want to just dump off their pain and put it on me. And I don't say no, so I guess that's my problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I'll take your pain. I'll wear it
Well,
on my
and
shoulders.
I also think that you have one of those personalities that people feel like they've already known you because, when we just popped into here, sometimes so I'm an awkward guy and sometimes I get an interview that comes on and I'm like, I really don't want to talk to you too much before the interview because I'm awkward and it'll put you off. So let's just get right into it. And with you, I just felt comfortable just automatically. And that doesn't happen to me very often.
Well, that's an honor. I mean, I
Yeah,
think a lot of people when they see someone, even though like I dress pretty eccentric and I am eccentric, I
yeah,
think because of that, I air a level of confidence and like self knowing and love
yeah,
that people see. Okay, maybe I'm not going to be like this person, but I can talk to this person because they obviously know who they are.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, I think we're always seeking something, but I spent so many years doing the work to figure out how to love myself
Mhm.
that I think people notice that in me. And maybe that's what it is. I couldn't really tell you, but I mean, this is
Mhm.
one of those things that happens to me go outside pretty much. And comics do it to me too. And I even have a bit about it right now that I'm working on because it's been happening so much. And even still, people love to come up there after the show, like, yeah, I watched my dog get hit by a car. And I'm like, yeah, you can go ahead. On what kind of dog? What kind of car?
You're the ultimate empath. You just have to soak it all in.
I guess so. Like I said, one of the lines for my bit is I was like, your pain will flake off me like my skin does.
Yeah.
So blame the eczema or whatever, but nothing sticks to me that
Yeah.
that I don't want to.
Right. Now, have you felt that your act plays to a certain type of audience, and then you've been surprised by people who become fans that are out of that type?
Yeah, I used to think there's no way older people 50 and older are going to get what I'm talking about, or because I like psychedelic guru kind of energy vibe to me,
Mm,
especially in what I talk about. It's not, and it's not like that at all. Like I mean, I can give you a perfect example. 2 months ago, I was up in doing a show, and a 17-year-old kid brought his 80-year-old grandmother to see me, and I
mhm,
noticed them like in the second row, and I was like, okay, so I got the relationship quickly, and I just looked at him and I was like, I'm going to tell you both of this right now. Both of you are going to be embarrassed to laugh in front of the other one at the
uh-huh.
things I'm going to tell you. But I'm going to tell you right now, you're here together. Let's just see what happens if you truly open yourselves up and allow yourself to just be a part of this experience.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and you know what? I broke the tension for them because that's exactly how it was.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're sitting there with your grandmother, she's probably you probably think she thinks I'm innocent and pure, and you're looking at her thinking she's innocent and pure.
Uh-huh.
No, this 80-year-old woman has given blowjobs and
Yeah.
seen murders or whatever else. And you're a 17-year-old kid with the internet. Like, you go to school, you hear things,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. And so I really embrace the fact that I have families that are fans of mine, that like little
Mhm.
kids will see me in a restaurant and get excited, and their parents are like, yeah, my 10-year-old really likes you. And I'm just like, oh, that's amazing.
We have lost Alex. Hopefully he'll be back. Hey, lost you.
Hey, I don't know what happened there. That came out. That was so quick that it just like was here and then it
Yeah.
disappeared.
Yeah, it was right out. Yeah.
I mean, are you able to like cut that together? Okay, is
Oh,
that right?
yeah. Yeah, we'll be fine.
Okay. So yeah, what I was saying is like I have these families that are fans of mine, and I think it's a really beautiful thing when like their parents are able to bring their kids to my show. And I've even walked up to like families beforehand at an all ages show and be like, "Hey, I'm not what I am on America's Got Talent, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's me very toned down as far as my language and my themes." And they're like,
Uh-huh.
we know, he can take it. It's good.
Yeah.
You know, she's 13. She can hear it.
Yeah.
And that's an honor because I don't most of my friends and my peers don't have children that are fans. And I look at that as that's my future right
Yeah.
there. A
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of those kids can't go to shows right now, but if I'm their first, or like someone in comedy who becomes important to them because I had any sort of effect on them whatsoever, what a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I was on a hike once, And this like 10-year-old kid was with his mom and his brother, and he asked me, he's like, "Oh my gosh, aren't you from America's Got Talent?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "That's so cool, I love that show." And I was like, "Oh, awesome." And he looked at me, I can't believe he said this. He goes, "A lot of people think you're mean, but they just don't get it, it's a joke." And I was like, "What?" I'm
Can you
sorry.
please travel with me?
I looked at his mom and I was like, "Whatever you are doing, you
Yeah.
are killing it with this kid." Like, oh my gosh. Like, it was such a beautiful thing to hear out of the blue that, like, it's always fun to get recognized. But for something like that, I don't expect kids to understand what I'm doing at that level.
Yeah.
But this kid did. And that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny because I was the same way with my kids, and I think my son's 28 or 29 and my daughter's 31, and I was always I'll always be there for you, but I'm never gonna tell you what to do. I'm never gonna tell you, how to be, how to act, what kind of music you to like, and who to hang out with and stuff like that. And they both turned out great. And the funny thing is my son is very uh, he knows what he likes, and a lot of it is stuff I don't like, and but we come together on the few things that we do like together. And it's really neat when you've got kids that have a mind of their own, and you can disagree on stuff, and yet the stuff that we do agree on is really cool. So yeah, it's neat to have a relationship with your kids like that, and a lot of parents don't.
No, for sure. I mean, that's like, I mean, you have to let kids. I'm not a father yet, but I mean, you have to let kids. You guide them, but
Hmm.
you don't tell them or dictate how they live and what they do. You just try to put your best influence into them and hope that they can become their own person and that they are happy and with the way that they live their life and that they,
Hmm.
have a lasting impact on the people that they meet and the things that they touch. That's
Hmm.
as if you achieve that as a parent, you won.
Hmm. Now, one of the things I wanted to get into, because you're so unique, that when you were coming up in comedy, let's say you were either hosting or you were featuring, and you got to work with the more experienced comedians. Did any of them try to tell you that what you're doing isn't going to work?
This is a weird thing for me because I have not featured all that much. Like
Okay.
most comedians' path is, yeah, you host some things, then somebody will like take you on the road, or you go into a club and you start featuring for bigger comedians. I asked everyone if I could feature for them. And unanimously, the answer was like, I already have somebody, or I don't think it's a good fit, or whatever it may be. And I'm not, I can't say why because I do have good energy, but I also have very powerful energy. And I think a lot of people, I can't really speak to like, I'm not going to say like people don't want that in front of them, or somebody that is very much their own person isn't necessarily always a great opener. It's a great like dual act if you can figure out how to be like co-headliners or something like that. But I was
Hmm.
basically forced into headlining because I had done America's Got Talent. I was trying to feature, and it was just nobody would take me with them. And
Hmm.
anyone, I mean, I have since featured like really comfortable comedians have taken me, like Kyle Kinane, Jeff Ross, Whitney
Hmm.
Cummings, Craig Gass, people that like really are very sure of themselves and just know I'm a good hang and I can do my job up there.
Hmm.
But anyone who ever told me, hey, what you're doing, it's too weird, people aren't going to get it, or it's really unconventional, those people are scared. And to be
Hmm.
honest, they're scared of you changing something. This happened to me in roast battle when I started wearing these extravagant costumes. Is
Uh-huh.
people were like, "Hey, you can't do that," and I'm like, "What do you mean? Why can't I?" They're
Uh-huh.
like, "Because it's not really you. It's not." It's like, are you afraid that now you can't wear a flannel shirt and jeans? Like, it's okay. You got to be yourself up there. And I really lean into these are my bits. This is what I think is funny, and I will take you for a ride whether you're ready to go on it or not. There are
Mhm.
times, I mean, dude, like perfect example. So on this album, I have one of the final bits is the self-help book bit.
Mhm.
That is a bit where if I start doing it and the audience doesn't like it, I don't have an out.
Yeah.
I have no way to get out of it. So it is 5 minutes of basically pure tour de force assault on
Yeah.
the audience. And the less they were into it, the more I would just lean in and
Yeah.
go even harder. And to me, it's like, look, you're on my roller coaster right now, and my roller coaster, you're not going to see all the flips and drops and turns that it's going to take you on, but you're strapped in, so you have nowhere to go. There's no
Mhm.
getting off the ride right now. And anyone, that's why I'm really weary of giving comedy advice. Like, I'll tell people things like, hey, slow down a little bit, let the
Mhm.
audience breathe, let the joke land, let them
Mhm.
think about it. But I will never say, hey, don't do something like this, because
Mhm.
everyone needs to figure that part out for themselves. And
Mhm.
I've been told plenty of times, dude, you're so weird. Like, where do you come up with this stuff? Like, that joke is so esoteric. I don't think people are going to get it. Okay. Well, let them figure that out.
Uh-huh.
Let them tell me that. And
Yeah.
I'm a person who I can figure out what to do with pretty much any audience.
Mhm.
I know how to pivot and shift if things that I'm talking about aren't going well.
Mhm.
And that's what you have to be your own person in this. You
Mhm.
can't you can imitate for a while to figure out what you want to be, but at some point you need to say, I'm doing whatever I want to do up here. And that's one thing where I've never been good at following rules. I've always challenged authority, and I can't do things the way they're supposed to be done. Like, to
Mhm.
me, putting together IKEA furniture, the worst thing I could ever possibly do,
Yeah.
because it needs to be done in a very specific way. And if you don't do it in this way, it won't come together. The
Right.
only reason comedy works for me is because I can do it however I want.
Mhm.
And if people say, well, that's not how it's done, okay, well, then you do it a different way. But I'm going to do this.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. So in being able to pivot with any kind of audience, so I just relocated to Alabama from Indiana, and
Okay.
I've witnessed it's Huntsville, so there's a multitude of different people here, but there's also the old guard, and I've had conversations and actually done an act that I'm way more like a Ray Romano or a David Letterman on stage. So a lot just that guy that stays in first gear pretty much. And but they I try to think about you in that situation where you've got all these folks that they say have a blessed day all the time, and it's super red state type stuff. How are you able to work in that type of a situation?
Funny enough, those are the people that get me more than anybody.
Really?
It's really bizarre, but like when I go to these, more progressive cities, a lot of times, like, not that they don't, like, I can get them on board, but there's certain things that they don't, that maybe I can't get away with, because they're like, whoa, hang on a second, did you just really say that? Like,
Uh-huh.
okay. Whereas the people in like the red states, they don't really give a shit what you say.
Uh-huh.
If I'm talking about, dogs dying, or like, whatever it may be, they're kind of more on board with it. And I tend to just, I tour everywhere. So I
Mhm.
experience every type of audience there is. And I've even toured internationally. I've done shows in like Thailand and Buenos Aires and London and Canada.
Mhm.
And you just, you figure it out by just being present and in the moment. And
Mhm.
it really, we're supposed to be good at reading the room. That's one of our main jobs. And
Mhm.
if I walk in, there's a lot of times I walk in, I go, ugh, I do not want to go up here.
Yeah.
This is not the situation. I'm watching the opening comics like bomb because like no one's really paying attention. It's just a bad environment for comedy.
Uh-huh.
And I have to tell myself every time, okay, but how are you going to win? I don't accept ever that I'm going to fail up there. I never have that thought. I go,
Uh-huh.
what can I do to have fun? Whether it's bring out some crowd work, maybe do a little roasting, maybe just go into some bits that are a little more like easy to take. You know, like a
Mhm.
perfect example, like on this album, the settling joke, that is universally accepted as
Mhm.
pretty much when I do that joke, people get it. No matter
Yeah.
where you are, people
Mhm.
get that one. The self-help book bit, that's not going to be for everyone.
Yeah.
There were definitely crowds where I go, I'm not going to do that one tonight. Just
Uh-huh.
because I don't, there would be so, it's such a piece. Like, and that's the thing is like, I have jokes on this album. I have some bits. That is a piece and it
Uh-huh.
has to all work together. And like I said, like you got to be on, I have to look at the crowd and go, okay, there's a bunch of like 20-year-old liberals here. They're going to be all into this because they're going to know what these books are. They're going to know what I'm talking about. If
Uh-huh.
I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and the main people at this are and the main people at this in this room are a dentist office that are celebrating their 100th Google review, that's not the crowd to do
Yeah.
that bit. And you got to know. And luckily, I have enough material that I don't need to rely on one or two things to like get
Uh-huh.
me through. I can
Right.
always find a way to be relatable, even if it's just being myself.
Mhm. Mhm. What's your writing process?
I I write every day. I write every morning.
Mhm.
But that's mostly just like journaling. That's like just
Mhm.
decluttering my mind. Whenever I actually think of something or I hear something, what I do is I write it down in a notebook and I just start writing a few ideas down. I jot it out. If I have a show that night, I'll try to just figure out, well, what are the bones of this that I can at least present as part of another bit, maybe, or like just
Mhm.
add on to it, try a couple lines. But when I really feel like I have something, I go to my computer and I just type out as if I'm on stage and I was doing the bit. I try to type it out for as long as I possibly can until I've gone on so many tangents that I don't even know where I started. And
Uh-huh.
then I go back through and I go, okay, but what's actually the real meat of this? What's fluff that it can just be thrown away? And what's actually getting to the point? Where are the actual punchlines? Oh, and then maybe in a full page, maybe I'll tear that down till it's only like a quarter or a third if it's
Mhm.
actually usable. But then I'll take that and I'll just keep trying to build on that, build on that. My set right now, because I'm not trying, unless I'm doing an hour, I'm not doing anything from this album that's about to come out. I have about 20, 25 new minutes, and the rest of it I can fill in with like crowd work and some older bits that never landed anywhere.
Mhm.
Um, I'm trying to literally build it upon itself. So it's like, okay, I just talked about this. Well, what would be the natural progression for me to go into after that? And how do I write a bit about that? So,
Mhm.
okay, I'm traveling again. Here's some traveling bits about things that happened to me along the way. Well, who's happy that I'm traveling? I'm happy. Oh, my fiance's happy because we've been quarantined together for 2 years and finally I'm out of the house. Oh,
Mhm.
well, let me talk about my engagement. Let me talk about my bachelor party. Let me talk about things that are in my own head, my fears about getting married. Where does that come from? Oh, here's a woman in an airport talking about her daughter is on a starter marriage, which is literally a thing I heard the other day and I was like, a starter marriage? That is hilarious. I'm going to talk about that for sure. And so it all kind of leads into the next thing, and I'm trying to write this almost like I heard George Carlin did it this way. Like George Carlin used to write out his entire hour and then memorize it and go perform it, as opposed to learning it piece by piece and putting it out there one
Uh-huh.
joke at a time. And so I'm still putting out the jokes like one at a time, but I'm trying to figure out like, well, what is this hour going to look like? And how is it going to be different than anything I've already done before? If you look at my
Mhm.
first album, every bit, almost every single bit is about 60 to 90 seconds. They're
Mhm.
short. I didn't really go into them. I just told the joke, found the funny, and left and went on to the next thing.
Mhm.
And this last one, these bits are long.
Mhm.
They are involved. They're stories. They're
Mhm.
they're larger than life. And I think that's the direction I want to go. But also in these stories, you have to have the maximum amount of punchlines. I am
Mhm.
punchline heavy. I do not like to say more than 2 sentences without the audience laughing, unless I am very deliberately building tension
Yeah.
up to a huge moment.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that I really pride myself in, is the amount of jokes that are in this hour, in
Yeah.
within these bits.
Yeah. It was actually when I finished, it was like, whew, it wa it was like I had been in your head for an hour. It was
Well, especially with the last bit, you're really in my head
yeah.
on that one. So that one, dude, and so that one, the final bit on this album, it really is. It's an explorer. It's an exploration throughout my psyche of me having an existential crisis. And when I do that bit live, what I do is I have an audio cue that I give to a sound guy. And so I'm silent up there. And then you hear my voice come through the speaker system, like voice of God style. And
Mhm.
people freak out. They're
Yeah.
so confused. They don't know what's happening. They're looking around, going, where is that coming from? And it's kind of a beautiful way to play with the format of conventional stand up and just do something different and make it more of like, we're in a show.
Mhm.
We're showmen. Like, I respect the guy that just goes up there and stands first gear at a mic and does his whole thing. But
Mm.
my thing is, like, I'm a performer, and I want to
Mhm.
try to. I don't ever want you to think you know what's coming
Mhm.
from me.
Yeah.
And when I would do that bit live, um, it was always like a beautiful just conclusion to everything that you've learned about me. And if you watch that bit on its own, you're like, whoa, where did this come from?
Yeah.
But when you listen to it as the culmination of this entire hour,
Yeah.
it makes so much sense.
Mhm.
And I hope it comes through on the album, like that it is like a voice of God thing happening, because
Yeah,
that was something
yeah, yeah. I
we had
mean,
to play with
because
that a lot.
it's definitely with the echo, what the reverb or whatever you put on it, you can definitely tell that is something that is happening outside of you talking into the mic. So I
Oh,
definitely got
good.
that. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah, that was, dude, that bit took months of experimentation and
I bet.
playing and just figuring out, how do I do this? Like,
Hmm.
how do I go beyond what traditional stand up says I'm supposed to do?
Hmm.
And that's one of those things where people see that they're like, "Oh, great. Do I have to do that now?" No.
Hmm.
You don't have to do anything that anyone else does, but that's what I want to do. So
Right.
let me play.
Are there comedians or other people in your life that you can bounce this stuff off of before you take it on the stage?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I talk to a lot of times I do talk to comedians about it, but I also just talk to trusted friends that are not in stand up themselves, because I'm
Mhm.
like, "Hey, if you were at a show and this happened, what would be your thought process? Like, would you be into it? Would you be not?" Because a lot of
Mhm.
times the problem with asking comedians questions is, first of all, yeah, they'll be like, "Yeah, go for it, dude." But they'll always tell you what they think would be funny, as
Yeah.
opposed to what would work necessarily in your point of
Yeah.
view in your world. That's why I'm very weary of giving anyone advice, is because, like, I'm just going to tell you to do what I would do, and that's not the answer for you.
Right.
So when some of these bigger bits, I have to, like, I'm like, I had to record that one and, like, talk to a friend about it, and, like, to really be like, does this make sense if this happens? Is
Mhm.
is this something I can do? And other ones, like the self-help bit one, that one, just, I was like, man, why are self-help books so aggressive? And then I started writing a bit about that, and I was like, no, this is very standard a way to write this joke. What's the way that Alex Hooper is going to make it interesting? I hate that I just use myself in third person, but it was like, how I relate to me. Oh, well, what if these books were like drugs, and you were just getting more and more addicted to them the more
Yeah.
you went on, and you needed stronger books? And that bit, the first I wrote that whole thing out, and I remember the first time I did it, I was like, that's practically complete as is. No one needs to tell me what to do with this bit, because I just know that it will work
Mhm.
in some capacity in front of the right crowds.
Mhm. And it's funny people do get addicted to those books, and
Oh yeah.
they jump from one type of self-help. It's just like dieting. They jump from one to the other, and it becomes like a religion to them.
Well, dude, you know I wrote my own, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
yeah, I wrote my own self-help book. You know, I have it like right here on my desk. Like, hey, roast yourself to happiness,
Yeah.
everybody. Like, bam. Like I did. I'm that person who I read one and I was like, I need more,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
devouring them until the point where it's like, okay, well, how much self-help do I need?
Yeah.
Like I'm going down this wormhole that eventually I got to cut myself off of this stuff and like
Right, right.
stop reading so much hippy dippy shit and just like, okay, start applying some of the principles you learned and just go out in the world and just read a fiction book of
Yeah.
some kind. Jesus Christ, man.
Now, do you have any kind of a pre-show ritual? Because I mean, you kind of started a 10 and pretty much maintain that 10 throughout the show. Do you have something that you do to get yourself ready?
I'm pretty quiet backstage. I'm not what I am on stage by any means.
Mhm,
I am like, I'm a guy who like I stretch, I shake it out, I do a lot of
mhm,
like blah, 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 like that kind of just like that just get whatever excess up in me, like just kind of try to just push it out. And so
mhm,
and then I get pretty quiet before I go on stage and I just kind of close my eyes. Like it's not like I don't have like it's not like a ritual or a meditation. It's just to take this moment of peace and remember that when you go out there to just leave everything out
mhm,
there. And this is for them. This is for you. This is a once in a lifetime experience for all of us. We're never going to be the performer again. I'm not going to be in this room again for a long time. So what
mhm,
can I do to make this experience be an escape for myself and every single person in this room? I don't
mhm,
want anyone thinking about anything else in the outside world except what is going on right here, right now.
mhm.
And so I pretty much just like people tell me this all the time. They're like, "Man, you're really different off stage. You're really like calm." It's like, what kind of fucking weirdo maniac would I be if I came into every situation like, "Hey man, how's it going? Wow." People would be like, "Get away from me, you freak." Like
Yeah,
I wouldn't we've all met the comedian that doesn't ever want to turn it off. And
yeah,
it's annoying.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
it's the
dude, can
worst.
we just be people? When I'm
Yeah,
on stage, yes, that's when I'm letting it all out. And I don't need to be this wild character outside of the stage. Like I always, people that when I love the question, what kind of comedy do you do? And the easy answer for me is it's a hyperbolized version of my life. It's of
mhm,
myself. Like it is me at a 10 all the time
mhm,
when most of the time I think I'm operating at around a 4 or a 5. And
mhm.
anyone who hears me say that knows me is like, yeah, you fucking wish you were at a 4 or a 5, Alex. You're fine. Don't even act like you're not 25 all day long. But
Yeah, well, you're at
no,
your
I'm
4 or 5. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I'm pretty chill. I'm very easygoing. I'm a very much just flow through life, like take what is handed to me and use that for my own experience and don't try to
uh
combat anything, you know?
Yeah.
Just play the
I
hand you're
have to
dealt.
say some of the things that you have said have resonated with me because I am a guy that gets in my own head really bad, and I shoot myself in the foot before I get on stage quite a bit. And my last time I thought I would be cool and take an edible before I go up, and it kicked in a little bit too early and too hard. So it was just my whole act was me trying to keep it together. So that's a no-no for me from now on.
Yeah, no, I don't. You know what? People ask me all the time, like, dude, you get high before you perform. The stage is my drug. Like, I
Yeah,
don't need to,
yeah,
After I get off stage, a lot of times I do like smoke a joint or something like that, just because I like that feeling of like, I did it. It's
yeah,
still flowing through me. Let me enhance this experience. But,
yeah.
that's what, like you were saying, like, this is why I'm almost weary to talk about what I'm going to do to other people, is because I just think, like, well, I believe in it, so let me
Mhm.
go try it. And sometimes if we talk about something too much, it gives us the validation that we're looking for and we don't feel the need to do it
Mhm.
anymore. So I really like when I have an idea going through my head, if I need to talk about it to a couple trusted sources, I will, but I just try to start doing the work to
Mhm.
advance whatever the idea or project is without bringing an outside influence because I don't need anyone to go, dude, people have done stuff like that before, or like, I don't, that's too wacky, it's too out there. My thing
Mhm.
is, let me find out where the line is.
Right.
And if I cross it, or if I push myself too far in any direction, I'll find out.
Uh-huh.
I don't need you to tell me that before I've even attempted to do it. And especially like something like America's Got Talent, nobody's going to tell me to go on there and be like, dude, when you roast those judges, you should put on a unitard and a tail, dude. Like, no one is going to tell me that. And if I told most people I was going to do it, they'd be like, why?
Yeah.
Just be you. And I'm like, but it is me. That's part of the fun. Like, this is
Yeah.
me just being a silly idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally respect that, and I'm so glad that I saw that clip, and it's just, it's so refreshing because it was real. I know that Howie was not expecting that, and the fact that he didn't get it the first time around is just hilarious.
Yeah, it was a shock to me. I saw him about 2 months after I filmed it. I saw him at the Comedy Store, and we had never spoken,
Uh-huh.
in any capacity, and I just said, "Hey, do you remember me?" And he goes, "Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're brilliant. What you did was so funny. It was so amazing. It was so in the moment." And I literally was looking at him, I was like, "What? What do you why didn't you tell me any of that? Like, why did you buzz and acted like I was being rude or like that I didn't know what I was doing?" And then one of my friends, another comic, was like, "Alex, he's playing a part on that show too.
Yeah.
And he's his own character. And his character in that moment said, I'm going to get offended by this." And
Yep.
that was his choice. And
Yeah.
looking back, yes, he understands that what I did have merit.
Uh-huh.
But in the moment, he chose to play it as, I'm not letting this get through.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
He has since apologized to me, which like you don't need to apologize, dude. That segment put me on the map as far
Right.
as being a comedian. Like
Yeah.
Roast Battle on Comedy Central was great, but the amount of eyes that saw that compared to America's Got Talent,
Uh-huh.
minuscule. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah, I can't imagine you having any more impact than the way that that went.
Yeah, I can't
I
either. I
mean,
mean, I was
oh,
when I went back.
Heidi, I mean, she was staring daggers through you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean that joke, those jokes, people really didn't like those ones because they said I was questioning her parenting
Yeah,
skills.
yeah,
And I'm like, no, you're not paying attention to what that joke is.
yeah.
I'm telling her that she's amazing, beautiful, magical, and
Mhm.
that's why you don't believe that she had time to raise her kids because she's
Right,
too
yeah,
busy working on herself. It's not
yeah,
about her parenting skills. But like that's the thing is like when I went back in 2020, I was so sure. I was like, man, if the audience hates me again, I'm so ready. I want to live in it. I want to bask in their filth. And
yeah,
when I didn't have them, there's a reason why the first time I was on has like over 100 million views overall, and the
uh-huh,
next couple times like collectively have a couple million, which a
yeah,
couple million is great. But the
mhm,
reason that the impact wasn't there is because there was no audience that hated what I was doing. There wasn't this David and Goliath thing
mhm,
happening.
right,
The stakes are so much lower when it's just me and the judges. And
mhm,
it's unfortunate that it worked out that way, but I'm still very grateful to the show for having me back. Nobody knew what was going to happen that
uh-huh,
season, the COVID season. Nobody,
yeah,
you can't predict something like that. So you just take what you can do. And it led to one of my favorite performances ever, which is me doing the storybook roast,
uh-huh,
which is what
yeah,
I'm more proud of that than I am in almost anything I've done in comedy because it was just such a authentic and innovative idea, and people had never seen roasting done like that. And I
right,
was trying to push the envelope, and I think I did, and that's a
yeah,
really cool thing.
yeah, 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 that's really good. So when you think about what you want to do next, I mean, you've been working hard at this for a long time. When you think about what the next step is, what do you want to do now?
So I I'm developing. I really want to do cartoons. I really, really want to be in cartoons.
Hmm.
And I'm developing my own cartoon right now that we're getting ready to start pitching to studios. And I mean that is a major thing I want to do. I definitely I want to keep touring. I want to keep going and getting into new clubs and working my way up the ladder on there. But really now it's how can I get the message of positivity and like self-love and dark humor out there in a more in a fresh way. And I
Hmm.
think that like a cartoon is actually a perfect way to do that for me to like really put all everything I've learned and like written into these books and these TV appearances and stuff. How do I teach kids how to love them, or just people in general, how to love themselves no matter what's going on in their life, how to live the best version of themselves. And I think part of me is always kind of going on this kind of inspirational, like, shamanic kind of warrior quest.
Hmm.
But I just want to make people laugh and in any way that I can. And I want to travel everywhere. I think the TV show is going to lead me to all that stuff.
Hmm.
And just keep finding ways to push comedy in a different direction, and I'm willing to fail. I think that's the
Hmm.
most important thing. I am 100% willing to fall on my ass and eat my own face.
Hmm.
And if that's what happens, that's what happens. My thing is if you go out on a risk and it doesn't work, there's no shame in that whatsoever. You
Right.
tried something different, you went big, and so go big or go home is my thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep finding ways to do that and push the envelope with all this.
Hmm. It's funny you mentioned that Kyle Kinane worked with you, because I can see you guys being a duo. I can,
It's that scratchy voice thing, man. We
yeah.
both kind of have the gruff thing happening. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
it's
you've got the kind of over the top positivity with the darkness, and he's just got the darkness, and so you
yeah.
you guys, I think you guys play off of each other really good.
Yeah, he's punk rock, and I'm electronic little music festival
Yeah,
boy. Like I'm the dancing rainbow fairy, and he's the bouncer going, "You're not fucking coming here, dude."
yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, so I did ask you at the beginning of this, after talking with me for about an hour, if you could come up with a little roast of me. So if you've got anything in your head right now, now's the time. Roast me, baby.
I mean, you do kind of look like Tweedledee ate Tweedledum. You look like Bruce Valanche is going through a horrible cancer experiment. You, you look like if I dropped you, a yolk would come out instead of a brain. There's, you have this giant baby vibe that I'm not convinced you don't need a diaper change right
Yeah.
now. And if I sing you a lullaby, maybe you'll go to sleep finally. I don't know how to end this podcast. Is that what do I need to put you in a warm binky and give you a bottle and just put you down to bed in a bassinet? Whatever it may be. I mean, I could do this all day.
I love it. I love it. It's so funny you talked about cancer patient, because I've got a headshot that I send to people, and the title of it is cancer patient, and they don't get it. But
Ugh,
it's my
come
it's
on.
my stupid bald head, and I just got this look like, and it, I offended a couple people with it. They're like, you should really not do that if you're not a cancer patient. I'm like, yeah, but I look like one.
Yeah, I mean, you look like you're playing Stephen Tobolowsky in a community college production of Groundhog Day. Like,
Oh man. So the album is coming out on the 25th, or is it
25th, yeah,
26th?
Friday,
Okay.
February 25th. It is available for pre-order right now. If you go to my website, or if you go to my Instagram, or any of my social media at Hooper Hair Puff, it's all on there too, on my Twitter. And I'm releasing a sketch the day before that I'm very excited about. I took the Lazy Susan bit and I basically made it into a music video with like lip syncing and stuff.
Okay.
And I'm really proud of how it came out. It's really, really cool and very different. And so I'll be releasing that on the 24th to promote the album as well. And then the 25th, it's available everywhere. I mean, you got lucky. You got to hear it
Yeah.
in advance. So you're
Yeah.
one of the first. And thank you for that, Scott. I really appreciate you listening to it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it's funny, Lazy Susan is just freaking hilarious for everybody. That's one of those universal jokes, and it's just great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah.
Appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you being on the show, folks. First off, this is coming out on Tuesday, so you'll have 3 days to pre-order. Go ahead and pre-order. This is what makes comics actually like the job that they do, is when they know that they have people that will actually spend a little bit of money. And for God's sake, don't listen to anything on Spotify. Uh, if you're going to listen to a comic, listen to any other medium that pays them more. And I don't give a shit about Joe Rogan or Neil Young or anything like that. Spotify just doesn't pay people. So please,
No.
please use a different music streaming service if you're not going to buy the album.
I like to say this, Scott. My album costs $9, and so you are, for the price of a Chipotle burrito, you are supporting an artist and inviting more happiness into
Yes.
your life.
Yep.
So that's it. It's a fast food combo costs more than my
Yep.
album does, and
Yep.
trust me, I put a lot more work into it than a freaking hamburger.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Well, thanks so much, Alex. This has been fantastic, and I really do mean it. You did inspire me to get out of my head a little bit and just be myself a little bit more on stage. So I appreciate that.
Well, I got you out of your head. I clearly got you out of your skin a little bit
Yeah.
too, apparently. So, I mean, it's all working for us, Scott. Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Yeah, this is great.